AI is transforming customer service. It's real and it works. And with Finn, we've built the #1 AI agent for customer service. We're seeing lots of cases where it's solving up to 90% of real queries for real businesses. This includes the real-world complex stuff like issuing a refund or cancelling an order. And we also see it when Finn goes up against competitors. It's top of all the performance benchmarks, top of the G2 leaderboard, and if you're not happy, we'll refund you up to $1 million, which I think says it all. Check it out for yourself at fin.ai.
Hey, I'm Jamie East, and today's episode of The Smart 7 is brought to you by Sainsbury's, where you can save big on festive favourites with Nectar prices. With Christmas round the corner, it's more important than ever to find value for money on your festive shop, especially if you're in the mood for festive tasty treats. And this Christmas, Sainsbury's have got great discounts to make your festive season truly magical. For example, this week you can get a Taste the Difference 6-pack of mince pies, half price at £1.75, Fox's fabulous Viennese assortment sharing box for £3.75, and Pringles Original and Sour Cream and Onion both £1.50, all with Nectar prices. You can shop in-store or online and save big on festive favourites this Christmas with Nectar prices at Sainsbury's. That's good food for all of us. This offer's for 18 plus, terms and conditions apply. Fox's offer ends 9th of December. Nectar required. Available in-store and online, excluding locals. Delivery fees may apply, subject to availability. 7 things you don't really need to know, but probably should. I'm Jamie East, and this is the Sunday 7.
I'm Ciara Evans in for Jamie East this week, and on today's episode of the award-winning Sunday 7, we get up to speed on a company offering designer babies. We hear why there's still hope after Brazil's climate summit, and meet some Scottish reindeer. Plus, Will Guyatt, the Smart 7's resident tech guru, does the maths on OpenAI and introduces us to some very odd Iranian robots. If you're enjoying our episode, please do like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We're here 7 days a week at 7 a.m. with the 7 biggest stories on the Smart 7 in association with Metro. Before we get started, though, it was on this day in 1990 that British and French workers met in the middle of the English Channel. They'd spent 3 years tunnelling underwater to create the Channel Tunnel and officially link the UK and France for the first time in 8,000 years. England was represented by construction worker Graham Fagg, who reached through the hole and shook hands with French counterpart Philippe Cosette. The 30th UN Climate Summit, also known as COP30, took place in Brazil, wrapping up last Saturday after a dramatic sequence of events, including a fire at the conference centre that appeared to leave it doomed to failure. The reversal of policies on green energy and a denial of climate change has become a core part of the Trump administration's policy, driven in part by the US president's irrational hatred of wind turbines. The issue is that one man's obsession has seen the US turn its back on the progress it had made towards renewable energy and effectively withdraw from any significant role in climate change discussions or in events like COP30. The summit ended with an agreement that didn't even mention the phrase fossil fuels, but there were enough crumbs of hope to keep the battle to slow climate change alive. John Kerry was Joe Biden's presidential envoy for climate change, and he spoke to Channel 4 News this week, warning that the public are not hearing the truth about the urgent need for action.
There's a big amount of money that has been expended to distort and pass out a lot of misinformation about what this means to people. People think somehow if you respond to climate, it's going to be more expensive or it's going to take away your comforts of life. No, not true. There's been a concerted effort, particularly with the fossil fuel industry, to create this atmosphere of question where there really isn't a legitimate question.
He wasn't sounding totally depressed about it, though, and he says that the real innovation in energy and creativity around renewables and new power solutions will soon become more visible.
What's happening is, in many parts of the world, innovators, entrepreneurs are moving so rapidly with new batteries, with better solar fields, with unbelievable geothermal. There's just a revolution taking place, and some people are trying to move in the other direction, and it's not going to work.
The COP summit took place in Brazil, home of the Amazon, and the Brazilian government was keen to make the case that developing countries need more support, but also need to accelerate the process of phasing out fossil fuels. One of the strategies to do that involves a massive experiment in the Amazon basin aimed at helping to tackle the ongoing issue of emissions and carbon dioxide. Researchers have set up massive towers in the forest to deliberately pump carbon dioxide into the atmosphere so they can simulate how nature responds to a future greenhouse gas increase. Carlos Alberto Quisadea is the coordinator of Brazil's National Institute of Amazonian Research, and he explains the principles behind the project.
E dessas torres a gente vai jogar CO2.
From these towers, we will release CO2 into the treetops and try to create the atmosphere of the future there, in that environment. Then we can study all the ecological processes that will be altered with more carbon in the system.
Quanto a gente pode emitir ainda para...
How much CO2 can we still emit within a 2-degree temperature increase? We will be able to understand what trajectories the Amazon will take and prepare decades in advance.
So while there are some signs of hope from COP30, there remains a long way to go before we see any real progress on reducing emissions to the levels that will have an impact on increasing global temperatures. With the US out of the picture, China has stepped forward with a new emission reduction plan. But Harjeet Singh from Indian Climate Foundation, Satat Sampada, says developed nations need to put serious investment into helping developing nations make the transition to greener energy.
Countries who are dependent on fossil fuels, particularly the oil-producing nations, they are resisting it for economic reasons. Then there are also countries who are dependent on fossil fuels for energy, for jobs. They are resisting it because they are not getting adequate support from developed countries. Australia, Canada, US, UK, Norway are all expanding fossil fuels and not setting the right example. So unless and until we have a mechanism and backed by finance and developed countries taking a lead, we will not be able to transition away from fossil fuels.
Each week on the Sunday 7, we bring you the biggest tech stories and the smartest analysis from the Smart 7's tech guru, Will Guyatt. But once again, this week, the headlines have been dominated by AI. Will, we saw an extraordinary story this week that don't do anything to calm down talk of an AI bubble. What did HSBC financial analysts discover?
Now, I don't know about you, but give me too many graphs and chat about undrawn debt facilities and I get confused pretty quickly. But when the analysts at a leading bank, HSBC, start investigating whether OpenAI can actually pay for all the compute power it's committed to buy over the next decade or so, the answer is a terrifying and resounding no. HSBC has estimated that by the mid-2030s, OpenAI's annual data center bill is going to be around $1.4 trillion, and that's just to have the kit they need to make the service possible. Against that, HSBC reckon at least the most optimistic of estimates, if people start paying for AI and rivals don't take away the early buzz around ChatGPT, OpenAI is going to be at least $215 billion short, and that's a best estimate 8 years out. It's a bit like me turning up on Dragon's Den and saying Guyatt Inc. is worth $2 trillion because my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, but then I turn up without any milkshake as proof.
OpenAI is one of the leading lights of AI, but it sounds like they're just digging a giant financial hole.
Be under no illusion, this is a crash waiting to happen, and it would appear that a huge amount of the success of the AI industry is built on the hope of analysts and investors who expect demand to stay high and for companies like OpenAI to coin it in. But for OpenAI to be seemingly committing to stuff they can't actually afford right now is a lot worse than a consumer like me buying a TV on buy now pay later and then failing to pay the company back.
This week has seen the EU loosen rules on AI in response to the US's approach, which is basically no rules as far as we can see.
Given that the US government has essentially told all of those in tech to stop talking negatively about AI and are allowing the experts to do their thing, some might assume we're already on a highway to hell, and now some of the more hawkish European leaders are suggesting that the trading bloc has fallen behind the US and China on the development of AI. As a result, the EU is massively scaling back on the controls and protections it was putting in place. The EU introduced what was a far-reaching and pioneering AI Act in October 2024. It was supposed to protect the rights of consumers, stop businesses from prioritising computer power over human workers, and also stop companies from training their AI models without compensation. Instead, the EU has said it's now going to delay the introduction of much of this AI Act, essentially watering down the protection and taking any kind of brakes off due to the fear that the EU is trailing behind. Let's hope they really don't take the US approach, because this cavalier attitude of that state is causing businesses like OpenAI to commit to stuff they simply can't afford to pay for.
What AI project did the White House launch this week?
A cheesy 90-second video said that Genesis mission was going to transform how science is done. Not just science in America or a certain kind of science, the whole of science. And it's about building a new system built on AI and quantum computing. And they're going to let AI lead on the progress of humanity, making decisions, analysing all the data. Thankfully though, the launch video used a really awful and recognisable piece of stock music, which means at least they haven't blown the budget on this bombastic promotional vid.
Has no one in the White House ever seen a science fiction movie? Isn't this how the apocalypse starts?
You are absolutely bang on there. The promo video looks like the type of thing that innocuously runs on a screen behind the lead characters in a film in the run-up to the rise of the machines. Now let's just hope this doesn't happen and we all get to enjoy the benefits to humanity that allowing computers to decide our futures will bring us.
One country that doesn't seem likely to threaten us with a robot revolution is Iran. What did they present at a tech show this week?
We've had expensive American robots, cheap American robots that don't work, Russian robots that fall over, and now Iran has presented what can best be described as humans doing the robot like Peter Crouch. This was at Iran's Kish Inox Tech Expo, and the footage has gone viral as the two advanced technology humanoid robots were just people in costumes and makeup. Now, whether the theatre of this movie has been lost in translation, but the characters look like my best Matrix fanfiction efforts from back in the day. They look resplendent in white outfits with sunglasses and the zeros and ones from coding plastered all over their bodies. Ah well, I guess if you can't beat them, you just join them, even if you do order the costumes off Temu.
Some tourists in the UK did fall for a scam though based on AI, didn't they?
Hook, line and sinker, and so far dozens of tourists have turned up at Buckingham Palace looking for the Christmas market, and to be fair, it does look fabulous. Stalls and twinkling lights outside the capital's most iconic tourist attraction, but there's a fairly large problem. These images were AI generated and no market has ever been planned. Oh dear.
Still to come on the Sunday 7 in association with Metro, why you might still have the brain of a teenager, and we meet some unusual detectives. A new study from Cambridge University suggests that your brain might stay in teenage mode for much longer than we thought. The research, which looked at the brain scans of over 4,000 people across a wide range of ages, identified 4 distinct points at which your brain evolves during your life. The 4 turning points, which occur at the age 9, 32, 66 and 83, see significant neural rewiring. What that suggests is that we spend much longer in the teenage phase of our brain than we previously realised, as it's not until our early 30s that the brain shifts into proper adult mode. Then at 66, our brain shifts again to an early ageing phase before a final shift in your 80s to what is called late ageing. Dr. Alexa Mousley from Cambridge University Cognition and Brain Sciences Unit was the lead researcher on the project, and she says that the study is not suggesting we're actually behaving like teenagers until we're 30, but there are clear physical differences between the different phases.
So we're looking at what we call a macro scale. So we're not looking at neuron to neuron. We're looking at large, what we call white matter tracts, which are the big connections in the brain between different regions. And those appear to be strengthening and weakening in a way that increases or decreases efficiency. So we know from past work that the way the brain's wired is related to important outcomes in things like neurodevelopment, mental health, and neurological conditions. And what we are establishing in our study is that the brain is organizing in a distinct manner at different ages. And so this might give us some insight into why the brain might be more vulnerable to different things at different points in time.
Bedbugs are one of those curses of modern life that we all dread whenever we check into a hotel room. The tiny mites who can live for 300 days without feeding are more of a nuisance than a risk to human health. But if you've ever been attacked by a mob of them, you might feel differently. Now though, a study in Malaysia has put the micro-menaces to work as detectives. A team of researchers from the Science University of Malaysia has established that tropical bedbugs can retain the DNA from one of their human hosts for up to 45 days, while they also tend not to move more than 20 feet or so from where they feed. That sparked the idea that the samples from the bedbugs could turn them into what are called spies in the bed sheets. Abdul Hafiz Majid is an entomologist at the university, and he says the use of DNA markers from bedbugs could be incredibly useful, although it will require a particular set of circumstances.
Based on our research with the STR marker, can give the basic phenotypic profiling, the hair color, eye color, and skin color. And then the STI marker gives you male and gender, it discriminates the person, male, female, and also the hair color and eyes, actually. Only within 45 days after the bedbug fit somebody. So if after that, it cannot be used that much. So at least it gives you some time frame within 45 days for that particular investigation using bedbug as evidence.
Still to come on the Sunday 7 in association with Metro, we look at the future of designer babies and meet some Scottish reindeer.
Right after this. Hey, I'm Jamie East, and today's episode of The Smart 7 is brought to you by Sainsbury's, where you can save big on festive favourites with Nectar prices. With Christmas round the corner, it's more important than ever to find value for money on your festive shop, especially if you're in the mood for festive tasty treats. And this Christmas, Sainsbury's have got great discounts to make your festive season truly magical. For example, this week you can get a Taste the Difference 6-pack of mince pies, half price at £1.75, Fox's fabulous Viennese assortment sherry box for £3.75, and Pringles Original and Sour Cream and Onion both £1.50, all with Nectar prices. You can shop in-store or online and save big on festive favourites this Christmas with Nectar prices at Sainsbury's. That's good food for all of us. This offer's for 18 plus, terms and conditions apply. Fox's offer ends 9th of December. Nectar required. Available in-store and online, excluding locals. Delivery fees may apply, subject to availability.
Did you know Tide has been upgraded to provide an even better clean in cold water? Tide is specifically designed to fight any stain you throw at it, even in cold. Butter? Yep. Chocolate ice cream? Sure thing. Barbecue sauce? Tide's got you covered. You don't need to use warm water. Additionally, Tide Pods let you confidently fight tough stains with new ColdZyme technology. Just remember, if it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide.
Welcome back.
A new ad is causing controversy in the US. It's for a company called Nucleus Embryo.
I'm so excited today to announce the launch of Nucleus Embryo, a genetic optimization software that helps parents give their children the best possible start in life. This announcement also marks the first time a company has openly partnered with a couple to help them optimize their embryos based on intelligence.
Essentially, we're entering the era of designer babies, and what Nucleus Embryo are offering for just $9,000 is to profile the DNA sequence of embryos for couples who are beginning a process of IVF. The company says it will allow would-be parents to check for known diseases and conditions like autism or ADHD, but also to look at traits like height, intelligence, and eye colour. If all that sounds a little bit creepy, 25-year-old CEO of Nucleus Embryo, Kiam Sadeghi, says you're missing the point.
I think what we do is we give parents more information on their embryos. Genetics is one tool parents are going to use to give their child the best start in life, but it's one of many tools. There's such a thing as the best baby, right? Best is in the eye of the beholder, best is in the eye of the parents. What is best, what is great, is using, if you want, this advanced science to help reduce disease risk. And if you're interested, predict something like the height of your baby.
Life for teenagers in Australia is about to change dramatically. As of December 10th, social media companies will have to take responsible steps to ensure that anyone under 16 cannot set up an account on their platforms. Not only that, they're also being told to remove or deactivate any existing users under the age of 16. The Australian government's plan to ban social media for teens attracted worldwide attention when it was announced, and they've identified key platforms that are expected to comply with the new legislation. They include teen favourites like Snapchat and TikTok, along with streaming platforms like Twitch and Kick. The decision is based on a study which showed that 96% of Australian children aged between 10 and 15 already use social media, and 7 out of 10 have been exposed to harmful content. John Ruddick, who is a Libertarian Party member in New South Wales, isn't convinced that trying to ban teens is the best option. He'd prefer firmer content rules for the platforms.
The kids are very, very tech savvy. We all know that. The word is going around every playground in Australia about how to get around this ban. Now, the government has banned 9 social media sites, all the biggest 9. Kids are going to work out how to get around it, so they're still going to be accessing social media, but it's going to be an underground social media. They've started off their life breaking the law.
In the UK, there's also increasing concern about the level of harmful content on social media, particularly around abuse and harassment aimed at women and girls. Ofcom's chief executive has written to tech firms warning them that the digital world is not serving women and girls the way it should. She's also asked for industry-wide actions such as timeouts for abusive users and prompts before allowing hateful comments to be published. Former Equalities Minister Baroness Morgan says that a letter and warnings won't be enough to change behaviour.
I personally think that Ofcom has said they're going to do a 2027 review of this code. Eventually it will have to be statutory to really have teeth. But I think there are some useful things in there. It's not the responsibility of the users so much anymore to report the content. You have to have the platforms designing right from the start their services to think about how they can be abused to harm women and girls. Those are steps forward, but of course it's just a starting point.
There's no escaping it at this stage. Christmas is definitely coming as we tip over into December. And what could be more seasonal than reindeer? Not just the busy flying octet that Santa has, led by Rudolph, but actual ground-bound reindeer. You might think that you'd have to go to Lapland or the Arctic Circle to encounter them, but you'd be wrong. In fact, Scotland has its own herd of reindeer and has done so for some time. Fiona and Tilly Smith are proud guardians of the Cairngorm reindeer herd, who made headlines this week when they stopped traffic in the Scottish Highlands. But the herd has lived in Scotland since the 1950s. Fiona Smith told the BBC that reindeer are a joy to look after.
They're super placid, very docile. They're social, they like to be together. We become part of that herd. They're not very tactile. I wouldn't say they're affectionate. They're just very social.
And what are they eating there? What are you feeding them?
So we make up a mixture ourselves of barley, sugar beet, a bit of hay mix in there. But this is just topping them up. They're not surviving off this. They need everything that you can see around you, the heathers, the mosses, the grasses.
Fiona's mother Tilly is equally keen on the reindeer, and she says they have unique physical attributes to deal with the cold weather.
Reindeer, to conserve their heat, they have a countercurrent system that runs from the body down to the feet, which means that the cold blood going back to the body meets warm blood coming out. So the cold blood gets warmed up as it goes back to the body, and warm blood coming out cools down before it gets to the bottoms of the legs. But the nose is an exception to the rule, and there is extra capillaries and extra warmth in their nose as a result of the blood there, which is the red nose. And this means that the nose is very mobile, it's very warm, it can seek things, it can smell things, even in terribly, terribly cold conditions.
This has been the Sunday 7. Wherever you're listening, do us a favour and hit the follow button. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. with the regular Smart 7. Have a great rest of your weekend. Written, produced and published by Daft Doris. Hey, I'm Jamie East, and today's episode of the Smart 7 is brought to you by Sainsbury's, where you can save big on festive favourites with nectar prices. With Christmas round the corner, it's more important than ever to find value for money on your festive shop, especially if you're in the mood for festive, tasty treats. And this Christmas, Sainsbury's have got great discounts to make your festive season truly magical. For example, this week you can get a Taste the Difference 6-pack of mince pies, half price at £1.75, Fox's fabulous Viennese assortment sharing box for £3.75, and Pringles Original and Sour Cream and Onion both £1.50, all with nectar prices. You can shop in-store or online and save big on festive favourites this Christmas with nectar prices at Sainsbury's. That's good food for all of us. This offer's for 18+, terms and conditions apply. Fox's offer ends 9th of December, nectar required, available in-store and online excluding locals, delivery fees may apply, subject to availability.
If you're a smoker or vapor, ready to make a change, you really only need one good reason. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you'll discover many good reasons. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch brand. Plus, Zyn offers a robust rewards program. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction. But there's only one Zyn. Check out zyn.com/find to find Zyn at a store near you. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.